Are you interested in what the CEO of one of the most powerful semiconductor companies in the world has to say? I know I was. Hear from the CEO of Renesas on this episode of DevTalk with Rich and Vin. Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of DevTalk with Rich and Vin. I am Rich. I'm Rich Nass with Open Systems Media. The guy on the other end there is Vin D'Agostino. How you doing, Vin?
Good, Rich. How are you?
I'm really good. Things are going very well. But it's been a while since we have done one of these podcasts.
It has been a while.
I'm going to blame you because I'm here all the time. Where have you been?
I've been traveling a lot for work with customers, and my grandson was just born, so lots of stuff going on. Yeah.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Wow. Very good. Very good.
Yes.
So where do your travels take you to?
I have been, in the last 2 months, I've been to California twice, to New York once, to Columbia, Maryland, to do some work with a client there. And where else did I go? Monterey for an executive development conference. And I'm headed actually to Manager Tools M conference in LA next week. So lots of stuff going on.
Very good. Very good. I have also traveled. I went to Costa Rica, I went to St. John, and I went to Panama City Beach.
Why do I think that's all vacation and not work, Rich?
One of us has to have fun.
That's true. So
very good. Speaking of which, what's the picture behind you there?
Oh, that's Hedy Lamarr. She was an actress in the late 30s and early 40s, and most people know her for that. But
the late 30s and the early 40s. So you must have been a big fan of hers at the time.
Well, I'm a big fan of hers. Not at the time. I wasn't even around. I am a big fan of hers, but not for her acting. In fact, everyone said she wasn't a very good actress. She had a PhD in mathematics, and she actually became an actress because she said math didn't pay very well. And the reason she's on my wall is that she holds the patent for frequency hopping. She developed the math for this on her own. She went to a friend of hers who was a player piano manufacturer, and he built a mechanical simulation of how it would work. And she actually went to the U.S. Department of Defense to say you could use this to not have enemies jam your signals. And the head of the Department of Defense said, Miss Lamarr, you're much more valuable to our servicemen as a pinup girl. And they didn't take the technology. So she got the patent, and now everything that we have wireless, Wi-Fi, cell phones, Bluetooth is all based on this technology. And it really means that you don't know where the inspiration or the basis for a lot of the stuff that moves the needle in your industry really comes from.
So is that the story you tell your wife when she says, why do you have a pinup girl on the wall in your office?
That is, yes. And I've actually had it in my office, in a couple of corporate offices, and people are like, why do you have an actress on your wall? And I tell that story. So when you think about even our industry, the people that have contributed to this industry, some people know, companies like Intel is on everybody's desk. They know that. But you look at a company like Renesas, Hitachi, Mitsubishi, NEC. Hitachi had the first programmable part that was in a plastic package, completely reducing the price of it for the market, making it available to other people. They had the first part with enough RAM on it to write code in a language like C instead of assembly, to allow things to move more quickly in development and reuse code more easily. They worked with Microsoft to develop Windows CE. Nobody knows that. Windows CE originally only ran on SH parts. NEC and Hitachi had the first fuzzy logic compilers back in the late 90s, before we even knew what fuzzy logic was. So there's a lot of stuff that we use today and look back on, and we've built stuff on that we don't even know who contributed it to make that happen. And we're really lucky today, actually.
Why is that?
Because our guest today is Hidetoshi Shibata, who's the CEO of Renesas. And
no way. Really?
Yes. I have known I've known Shibata-san for over 10 years now. I didn't send you an anniversary card. I'm sorry. But I joined Renesas in 2015 and met him on my first trip to Japan in his office in the old building before they moved out of downtown Tokyo.
Wait a
That's how
second.
long I've known him.
You got Toshi to come on our podcast. He doesn't come on He doesn't do podcasts.
I know. We're actually honored and should be honored because this is his first podcast ever. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce everyone to Hidetoshi Shibata.
Hi, I'm so honored to be on your podcast for the first time in my life. Please call me Toshi instead of Hidetoshi, which
Okay.
should make it a lot easier to address me. Although I have no association whatsoever to Toshiba, I prefer to be addressed as Toshi.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but I do have an association with Renesas, which is the creature born by the merger among Hitachi, NEC, and Mitsubishi, the companies you talked about, Vim. I came to Renesas back in 2013 as CFO. 3 years into the formation of the company, as you know today. Since then, wow, it's been more than a dozen years, and I became CEO back in 2019. This is something I often use as one of my fun facts, which is about the license to drive Shinkansen bullet trains. I earned the license way back when late 90s when I worked for a railway company out of Japan, and actually that's where and when I was truly exposed to the power of semiconductors and digital technologies, which I can, talk a lot more if needed afterwards. But that's what fascinated me to electronics, and since then, I keep following the electronics, and look where we are. Look where I am now. So
yeah,
that's
I mean, even in your era, Renesas, until Renesas released the Synergy product, no semiconductor company released code that they said would be acceptable for production. And Renesas, again, led the industry by doing that, and everyone else started doing the same thing. And that has morphed into the RA product line and the FSP, which a lot of people are using. So it's really exciting to see what you're doing. And with the three companies, they really have been a sort of a high touch customer company, working with very large companies. And so a lot of our mass market listeners may not even know who Renesas is. They may have heard of NEC or Hitachi for other reasons. So we're really excited to have you on the program. You could tell us some of the things, anything that you can share, publicly, things that are in store for our future in the industry, or your other insights. I mean, you, as you said, you came from the train industry and you have a license to drive a bullet train. I didn't know that about you. That's exciting. So, like an outsider coming in, you have a different view of the business, I think. So
well, hold on. How did you get from driving trains to working at Renesas? There's a disconnect there.
Well, the story is not that fascinating or exciting. Like I said, I was exposed to the power of semiconductors while I was driving bullet trains, because there were 3 types of trains that I was trained upon. The oldest one was basically fully analog based, and there the experiences of 50 years old master driver mattered a lot. But the latest version, I mean, basically those experiences are totally gone, because all you could do was to watch what's happening on the monitor and take corrective actions, I mean, digitally. So between the oldest version and the newest version back then, I mean, there's a ton of difference between what experiences or learning curve mattered. And that kind of pushed me into, although I switched my career from a railroad company to a private equity industry, which is also a different industry from semiconductor, I kept following what technology can do in terms of driving innovation in a way that touches our human lives. And my last investment that I took lead upon in the previous capacity as a private equity investor was basically about investment into Renesas. And, that again drove me into switch my hats from an investor shareholder hat to an operating hat as CFO. And since then, things happened. So where I am.
But we also want to throw in there, you also took the time to get an MBA from Harvard, and that's
Yes.
not something that people driving trains typically do.
Well, Harvard is about general management, leading people, and in that respect, my experience at the railroad company hopefully stood out as something different and something of relevance to other students. So
Very
That's
good.
great. Yeah. So what do we have in store coming from Renesas to help the industry move the needle again?
Well, rather than talking about the immediate future that's right ahead of us, I really wanted to talk about the long-term vision here,
Okay.
which is about basically bringing the electronics design, production, and lifecycle management capabilities to really a much broader audience. Because one thing that surprised me a lot while at Renesas is electronics has been and still is being in the hands of very few number of experts, and only at the COVID-driven supply crunch, all those managers and politicians and whatnot were made aware of what electronics is all about, beginning with semiconductors. But in the future, I think if we sort of liberate, if you will, the electronics and handling thereof to a much broader participants, I thought we can really accelerate all those innovations in a way that will help our human lives in an even more impactful fashion. That's where this digitalization vision came from.
Okay.
And should I continue?
Yeah, please tell us more.
Absolutely.
And this digitalization is basically connecting all the dots from ideation to the discovery of the components and parts available, and then designing electronics, which is mostly centered around the board, PCBs, and then the manufacturing of the boards and the system, and the life cycle management of the components. I mean, tracing the changes, tracing the origins, and whatnot, in a seamless fashion. And currently, each and every part is being automated or helped by different, CAD system, CAE system, and whatnot, but not in a sense that connects all those components seamlessly. And that's what I'm aspiring to do after acquiring Altium.
I had a feeling that's where you were going with this because you've brought some non-traditional semiconductor stuff into this conversation about doing board layout and actually manufacturing the boards and product procurement and all that stuff. So what was the process that made this acquisition happen? Was it where you said, I think we need this technology, or was it, hey, Altium does some cool stuff? Which way did it come from?
Well, very good question. Honestly, I've been mulling over this idea for some time. In fact, I flew this idea by some people, and everyone that I talked to loved the idea instantly, with a lot of doubt in in their eyes. No one really believed, a crazy idea like this will be materialized at least in our lifetime. Um, so I kept thinking about it, where to begin, how to start, and then I came across a company called Altium, and I followed them, their progress with a lot of fascination, and I decided maybe this is a company I should run by my idea. And then I flew to San Diego a few years back, met with then CEO of Altium, who's still with us, Aaron Mirkazami, and then kind of fearfully uh, initiated a conversation with him, and he was also thinking exactly along that line. So we basically hit it off professionally on this matter. And then the journey really took off from there. So that's the genesis of this idea.
So, what does success look like? How will you know when this acquisition is what you thought it was going to be?
Of course, I need to hold myself accountable for the horrifying shareholders. So, so I set the milestones and KPIs and whatnot. But really, with respect to the vision we said, I have, think about the way you use PCs now. You don't really think about, drivers, or you don't really think about, the versions of different software. You don't really think about, SCSI board and whatever. I mean, you just ramp up, boot up your PC, and then almost automatically connect to the internet, and that's it, right? That's how you use PCs. But I know you are mature enough to know, what PCs looked like back in early 90s, or even, late 90s. Things were a lot different. And you needed a lot of help from the expertise or knowledgeable people to make your PCs really functional. And that's the way I naively, describe the current state of the electronics. So the success should look like the way you use PCs. You can do the electronics. I mean, without really requiring all those sophisticated expertise. That's the state of the success.
So you're looking at this, if I'm understanding this, from the system design perspective. What do I need to make a system, and all the pieces that go in, the components, the board layout, the firmware, the drivers, the middleware to make motor spin or internet connections or whatever, all in one enclosed workspace, if you will, sort of a grandiose version of what we would call an IDE today, where we're writing code, building code, and debugging code. But now this brings that thought process to the system level.
Yes and no. So that's a tricky part.
Okay.
Because in essence, that's what we are trying to do. But not in a way that we incorporate all those ingredients in a way that we do with IDEs. Because I do know people love the tools they use, right? And that won't change overnight, or maybe infinitely. So the way we are thinking about it is we will provide a digital platform where we provide the basic elements, such as digital thread that will connect through all those different elements that's required to enable electronics design and manufacturing from end to end. And then on top of that, we will work extremely hard to ensure seamless connectivity to different tools such as discovery tools, design tools, simulation tools, and the lifecycle management tools, in a way that users have the freedom to choose whatever tools they like, which is seamlessly connected to this digital platform. But the reason, why we are doing it is perhaps if you use the tools we provide, and hopefully the devices will provide on this digital platform, you can use them probably a little more easily, a little faster, a little less cumbersome fashion. That's the idea. But we will ensure the openness of this platform. So you have the freedom to, choose whatever tools and ingredients from.
It's great. Is there a name for this platform?
The basic technical platform will simply be provided by Altium, and the Altium is now making a pivot from a product company to a platform company. And then on top of that, we will be building our own platform called Renesas 365,
Okay.
where you get to enjoy the benefit that I alluded to.
And what's the
So this-
time frame to have this all?
I was just going to ask about
all this built
timeline
out?
myself, Rich.
I mean, that's the toughest part.
Yeah.
So if you look at the trajectory of Microsoft Windows, it took a whole decade or even longer for them to come to where they were able to kind of wow the world with the introduction of Windows 95. And there's a company called Siemens out of Germany who's doing something similar to what I talked about at the kind of higher level, at the factory level, production system level, but not at the electronics level. And it's been 18 years since they embarked upon this digitalization journey at their level. And, they came to where, it is as good as it can be. So probably it will take a very long time for us to be able to make it really like the way I talked about. But the point is, maybe over the initial 5 years, we will make it something like Windows 3.1 as opposed to 95. So at least more people enjoy using it, more people get excited as to what comes next. So that's the time horizon we have or I have in mind.
Okay. That's great. That's great.
Are we
Rich?
able to shift gears into something totally different?
Yes. Go ahead, Rich.
Okay. Where do you think Toshi AI fits in within your organization? Is this a tool that you want your engineers using and taking advantage of?
Absolutely. As you know, the AI probably is at the infancy still, and it's going to take some time for AI to have really meaningful impact on the way we do business. But the emergence of the AI as we speak today is one of the key triggers for embarking upon this digitalization journey, because without the AI, as we talk, today, any of these functionalities or capabilities that I talked about could just be a pipe dream, because it takes so much time to do any of those perform those functionalities digitally on cloud. But with the emergence of AI, things will be dramatically different. So now we are trying to make our work a lot more efficient by taking advantage of the AI that is already available, such as coding assistant, such as robotics process automation and whatnot. But really, the value that we should be able to extract is to really make this digital platform called Renesas 365 really relevant and effective in a way that can, give you a lot more proposals, or that can provide you with, more context that can assist you with a lot more information that is needed without, referring to, 3,000 page thick, user manual. So
Yeah.
those are the ideas that we have in really exploiting the power of AI.
So
Yeah.
a question I ask often, if you're an entry-level engineer, should you be concerned that AI will take your job?
Well, I understand the sentiment, but I don't really believe it that way, because I do believe many of the engineers have fun making some product, right, that work, as opposed to spending a countless number of hours going through the user manual, or looking at watching, countless number of YouTube tutorials to know, how to hook up the board. I mean, those are really low value added element, and that's where AI should be able to extend a lot of help, so that, all the engineers can focus on, what's differentiating, what's more value adding, as opposed to, and just ensuring all the rudimentary elements in place. So I'm a firm believer that AI should be able to liberate all those engineers who might be listening to this podcast from those rudimentary, low value added work, so that they can really absolutely focus on what's a lot more fun and exciting.
Yeah.
That's a great answer. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, we've said over and over, even on this podcast, that for most people, they won't be replaced by AI, but they could be replaced by somebody who knows how to use AI as a tool, right?
That's
And
correct.
that really speaks to that. If you get more efficient at doing the rudimentary things, it gives you more space for innovation, and that's what engineers do really well. And AI doesn't really do innovation that well yet.
Yeah,
Maybe one
exactly.
day, but you know.
Exactly. I mean, imagine the days before the introduction of spreadsheet.
Yeah.
I mean, how did we do all those calculations? That was really cumbersome, painful, and basically, in my view, the a little more sophisticated version of spreadsheet. That's what AI will do to
Yeah.
really, liberate people.
Yeah, yeah. My mother was a bookkeeper, and and she worked in an old office. And I went in one day, and they had these buckets of manila cards where they wrote all the transactions on them. And I'm like, why aren't you using a computer? And she's like, this works just fine for us. But of course, long term, it wasn't going to. So, there's a management philosophy that says you should always be pushing work down to the lowest cost producer. So if there's something you can do, but your direct employee can do it just as well or almost as well, you delegate it down because it's being done at a lower cost, and it frees you up to do some of the more higher value things, right? This is a fundamental management rule, and technology does the same thing, really. It allows you to eliminate the manila cards and do it in a spreadsheet, or do it through a computer, and all of that stuff. And AI will do that as well. So
Absolutely.
yeah. Toshi, thank you so much for joining us on this call. We really appreciate you taking the time. I know you have a very busy day and a very busy job, but we really appreciate hearing directly from you on this stuff. And I hope that we can revisit this with you every so often and see how you're doing on your Renesas 365 journey.
Thanks a lot, Ben, and thanks, Rich, for
Yeah, we
having
want
me.
you to come back. We want this to be a regular thing.
Yeah, we want you to come back. This has been really a lovely conversation. Thank you so much.
I'll be honored to. I'll be honored to. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Okay.
Great.
That was really cool, Vin. So
Yeah.
I have to say, I'm impressed that the guest you were able to bring in. Good job.
Well, thanks. I've known Toshi a long time, so.
Okay. He really came across well. You know, although his story about being a train driver, you know, I had to throw in the fact that he's actually a Harvard MBA, because I don't want people to get the idea that he went from driving a train to leading this, you know, mega company.
No, I didn't know that about him either. I knew he had worked in the train industry before moving into investments, and you know, most people know that he joined Renesas after the earthquake and tsunami, and they had problems at factories and things, and so he joined as part of the InkJ investment, and then you know really thrived in that environment, and ultimately became CEO, which is exciting for him, and I think exciting for the company. You know, it's really nice to get insight at that level in a company that size, right? We've done that a couple of times, and it's always been interesting for us and for our audience. So,
and I was you know, I ask this same question all the time, and it's always interesting. And I don't know, you know, if we've gotten the same answer twice about the entry level engineer having to be concerned about AI taking his job.
Yeah.
He had a totally different answer, and we've had everything from hell yeah, I'm really concerned to no, not at all. And he was sort of in the middle.
Yeah, well, I mean, he comes to the industry that he's in, both industries, from a different perspective, right? Investment bankers very often have grown up in the banking industry, and he didn't. And people running semiconductors often were either sales or marketing or engineering people, and he wasn't. So his perspective is different than other people's, and I think that was an interesting thing. Some of the stuff he said I knew, but some of the stuff he said I didn't know. So that was pretty cool.
Absolutely. Always good to talk to you, Vincent.
Great to talk to you too. And you keep going on your vacations, and I'll keep going on my work trips.
Works for me.